President Trump has invited Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Washington next month. The two did have a phone conversation yesterday, which was described as very warm by a member of Netanyahu's office. Now, this comes amid reports that the U.S. is planning to move its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Tal Shalev, a political correspondent for Walla News in Israel, has reaction from the region. Again, Tal, we do thank you for joining us. We should note, no country has its embassy in Jerusalem due to conflicting claims made over the capital sovereignty, both by Israelis and Palestinians. So how are people in the region reacting?
Oh, hi, Josh. That really depends which side of the region you're looking at. Here in the Israeli government, for sure, there's a lot of anticipation and many expectations for Trump to actually exercise actually implement this campaign promise. But then you have, on the other side, you have the Palestinians and many of the moderate Arab states who are warning that this could spark a very difficult and tense situation here in the region. Even the Israeli security establishment has warned that such a move could be dangerous security-wise. So, but politically-wise in Israel, especially amongst the right-wing government, many of the ministers and many of the politicians are really hoping that Donald Trump will actually fulfill this campaign promise of moving the embassy to Jerusalem. But they also have a long list of other things that they're expecting from Donald Trump. And basically what's happening now is that the Prime Minister Netanyahu is telling all of his ministers, let's calm down. I'm going to be in charge, and I'm going to be the one that's conducting these relations with the new White House. Again,
as you were speaking, we were showing pictures of the protests considering this proposed move that are going on right now. Meanwhile, you mentioned, you mentioned the relationship between President Trump and the Prime Minister. We have word that they did have a discussion that was described as very warm. What sort of ally does the Prime Minister see in Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, we should say that it's an ally that is not Barack Obama. The bad relationship between Netanyahu and Obama has definitely been something that Netanyahu was waiting to get over with, especially in the wake of the last developments between these two couple regarding the UN Security Council resolution, which the Obama administration decided not to veto. So first of all, Netanyahu is happy to get a new president in the White House. Second of all, we should note that this is the first time in Netanyahu's history, the whole career, that he will be having a Republican president in the White House and not a Democratic president who quite naturally contradicts many of his policies and many of his ideologies. So Netanyahu is definitely waiting for this change, because it will be a change of spirit. And we should say that both Netanyahu and Trump, they know each other for years. Trump himself even campaigned for Netanyahu in one of the recent election cycles here in Israel. And the U.S. ambassador, Israeli ambassador to the U.S., for instance, Ron Dermer, is in a very good relationship with some of the people who are very close to Trump. So basically, in Netanyahu's office, they are also very, very optimistic about the prospect of this new relationship.
We did mention then a proposed meeting between the two men for sometime in early February. What's priority one then for the Prime Minister?
Well, the Prime Minister has been stressing that Iran is one of the top priorities. He is definitely waiting to discuss what he likes to call a bad deal. And yesterday, after the conversation, he noted that President Trump agreed with him that the Iran deal is a bad deal. But there are other issues on the table. Of course, the Palestinian issue. How will Trump conduct the future of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? How will he try to renew negotiations? Trump has called for direct negotiations, which is basically what Netanyahu has been hoping for. Another issue that should be noticed is also the tensions on the Syrian border, and of course, everything that has to do in this very tense strategic relationship going on in the Syrian civil war and the Russian presence. Netanyahu will try to clarify and at least reach understandings with the Trump administration regarding the situation in Syria as well.
You did mention Iran as it pertains then to that the nuclear deal. There have been reports in days recent that Israeli intelligence agencies have essentially cautioned the Prime Minister against any dissolution of the deal. Where exactly then Where does that relationship, certainly between the intelligence agencies that do report to him and the prime minister, how does that inform what we might see in February?
Well, we should note that there has been a divide between the intelligence community and the security establishment and Netanyahu on the Iran topic. We've been hearing top military officials basically saying that the Iran deal is working, and Netanyahu did not necessarily like those statements coming out of the army. Besides that, it's clear that Netanyahu probably understands the complexity of the Iran deal. He probably understands that maybe tearing up the deal, as was suggested during the campaign, is not necessarily a realistic goal, but he definitely has several ideas on how to intensify the pressure on Iran, even without tearing up the deal. For instance, imposing new sanctions or intensifying the pressure regarding the ballistic missile testing. So Netanyahu has been quoted in the past that he says that he has a few ideas that he wants to discuss with Trump. And definitely you can count on Netanyahu that he knows this topic quite well. He will probably be coming up with a few proposals. They might be confined by what he has been hearing from the intelligence agencies here in Israel.
It has been noted that when the prime minister does speak, that his words tend to play differently here in America as opposed to in Israel. As it then concerns that disconnect, what's the status of the investigation right now into possible criminal corruption that the prime minister is facing?
Well, Netanyahu is involved, is basically the subject of two very big police probes that are going on here. One has to do with alleged gifts that he has received from Arnon Milchan, a U.S.-based millionaire who has close relationship with Netanyahu, and the other investigation has to do with his involvement with Israeli media. Both of them have been at the top of the headlines for the past 2 weeks. From Netanyahu's point of view, actually, putting Trump on the agenda, talking about the first meeting, discussing what should be the goals, is actually serves him very well at this point, because this is a time where he can come up and say, well, there might be criminal investigations against me, but look, there's a challenge now. There's a new president in the White House, and I am the most suitable person in Israel to handle this relationship. As Netanyahu likes to refer to himself as Mr. America many times here in Israel. He likes to present himself as a Mr. Know-it-all, but definitely just diverting the focus to a different topic and different agenda serves him very well in the political arena.
Well, as we did note, Mr. America and President Trump will again be meeting sometime in early February. Tal Shalev, we very much appreciate the time and insight.
Thank you, Josh.